Can I tell you something that I find disrespectful?
I'm always here for that, Ty. Don't hold
I can
back.
make a pretty easy case that a 10-3 Texas team made its roster, made its coaching staff better this offseason. I think they're loaded. I like this team a lot. For me, it would only take a stiff gust of wind to make me change my mind on who is winning the SEC. That's how much I like this team. The most obvious case against Texas is that they've got the hardest schedule in the country.
That's a decent start, yeah.
Yeah. But that's not what you locked in on back in part one. That's not what you locked in on when we did our little bonus episode talking through our AP Top 25. Every time we have the Texas conversation, Dan Rubenstein, if I peel back that onion that is your weird-ass brain.
Yeah, thank you.
It all comes back to you not trusting Steve Sarkisian.
A little bit, yeah.
And I want to know why that is. I want to know why you're so disrespectful to
Disrespectful?
Steve Sarkisian.
I am of the mind that Steve Sarkisian called the greatest offense of all time. It was the 2020 Bama team with Mac Jones and all those receivers.
Yeah.
Najee Harris. I think Najee Harris was on that team. I think he's a terrific offensive mind. Part of my problem with trusting Steve Sarkisian lately is it's not all happening at the same time with Texas, which is weird considering so many of the advantages that they have, right? They went through these running backs that didn't work out. They go to the portal for new running backs. They build up this offensive line through the portal and through prep recruiting and development, and it doesn't work out last year, right? Serious issues. The receiving core last year, like I think Ryan Wingo's a really good big play guy. Parker Livingston, for a freshman last year, really good, came into his own. They had DeAndre Moore, and like those two guys are out, Livingston and Moore. They bring in Cam Coleman. They did a really good job with tight end last year. They're starting over at tight end. It just never feels like it's all coming together at the same time, and that week to week, the focus isn't always as locked in as it could be. Last year, there was some Arch Manning injury stuff. Yep. And I happen to think the ceiling of Arch Manning is still colossal.
No.
I think he's so good. And I think he has a terrific opportunity to be of Heisman caliber this year, especially, bringing in a guy like Cam Coleman and, moving the pieces around and shuffling up the offensive line and looking at the pieces they do still have on that offensive line. But last year was a weird year even still with all those pieces, right? Like
it was.
You can take into account the injuries and, the Mississippi State game and the Kentucky game, and I thought Arch did a good job willing that team to victory against Texas A&M. But like, what was the week of Texas football last year where you're like, came together really nicely against a quality team? Like a half against Vanderbilt, which they almost gave away. Again, this is a similar situation to Georgia where like you're nitpicking if you have serious issue with Georgia. They couldn't really figure out the pass rush against Florida last year. And I know you like Florida, and Florida had very, very good pieces last year. Florida should be a beatable situation for Texas, even in the swamp. The Oklahoma game, it's impressive, but like there is kind of the asterisk of John Mateer's thumb that, look, John Mateer didn't do a great job throwing otherwise as well away from Norman, but you take care of business. Winning is a skill. You credit Texas there. But what is that game? What is that game for Texas last year where like they scored a bunch of points against Michigan in a bowl game with a lame duck coach? I respect not losing that game. That would have been embarrassing. But now, like, what's that next step? Are you hanging with Georgia for the first time, Steve Sarkisian? What is that new thing if we end up seeing Texas, Georgia? Because I haven't even mentioned the defense. Right. New coordinator should be killer. Going and getting good dudes from other places, developing Colin Simmons into somebody who is just nightmare fuel constantly. I think, like, well, they have the defensive tackles like they did a few years ago that were like of top 2-3 round caliber. I hope so. One of the guys is named Hero, I believe. It looks like they've got star power in the secondary. Like Jelani McDonald looks like he's one of the best safeties in the country, right? But new coordinator, had some issues in the past, in the back end last year, injuries, communication. I want to know when Sark at Texas, with all that he has available to him, is going to put it all together. Because you could look at any position group and be like, oh yeah, that guy could be an All-American. Running backs look really strong this year. Arch looks like he should be very strong this year. Cam Coleman is like all over Pornhub apparently with what he's doing.
Hold on. Did you see the video that's floating around from
Filthy.
this weekend with Cam? It looks like he's wearing anti-gravity shoes.
Yes.
Granted, they slowed it down to make it a little bit more dramatic. But even still, yeah, you can work with that if you're Arch Manning. You will take a target like that who can jump out of the gym.
Oh, listen, the replies from Texas fans under the Instagram posts and Twitter posts are borderline, send me to the OnlyFans to sign up. Take my money.
Yeah.
Those clips were drooled over to that kind of extent. So, I mean, that's your prerogative more than mine. I don't know that world. But Texas should be killer this year. The game against Ohio State should be incredible. I cannot wait to watch Texas. I cannot wait to see who emerges and surpasses expectations. But in the back of my mind, I'm still like, I hope those 2 weeks don't happen for their sake.
I mean, I fully expected that I was going to vote Texas number 1.
Okay.
And then I started looking. And, of course, on one hand, on one shoulder, it's Arch Manning gets Cam Coleman. They're throwing Rayleigh Brown and Hollywood Smothers now into that rushing attack, which I think is an upgrade. I like Will Muschamp. I like the style, the aggressive attacking Muschamp ball that he runs on defense. I think it's much more aligned with what Sark has always wanted from his defense at Texas. There's a lot to like. That's on one side. But on the other, we ended up ranking him 6th. And of course we're nitpicking because we think Texas is going to be awesome otherwise. But the questions that you're raising and that I had bouncing around in my head were all a little bit louder than I expected. You know, this was a really explosive offense last year. But their success rates, their third down numbers, they were bottom half of the FBS, man. The line was not physical enough. I've got a question this year about the interior line going into the season. And again, I really like what I think they're going to do on defense with Muschamp, but it begs the question if he brings a little bit more pressure, which they didn't do enough of last year, but if he is bringing enough pressure, can he bring enough pressure to paper over some of those issues maybe that we saw in the secondary from a year ago, if they still exist?
Right.
And so for me, if I'm comparing Georgia to Texas, that's why I gave Georgia the nod, because I don't have those types of questions about Georgia that I do with Texas. On the Texas side, even if they fix like one of those things, they're going to be much better. And I have a lot of confidence in the players and the staff here that they'll find a way to bring resolution to some of those issues. But I don't know. I kind of was surprised at the questions I found myself asking after going through all the source material on the Texas side. It's obviously still going to be a very, very good team.
Yeah. Well, the one thing, again, it's not a worry. It's a curiosity. Anthony Hill did a ton for that defense.
Right.
Anthony Hill is no longer in the middle of that defense. Now they go
No.
get Rasheem Biles, who by all accounts looks to be an assassin in the
I think
middle
he's
there.
going to be the green dot dude. Yeah. He's going to be the vocal leader. Comes over from Pitt.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did accidentally write Simone Biles on my note sheet for those wondering at home.
Sure.
It was a long night.
Consummate gymnastics guru.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But no, I'm very encouraged by their portal haul. I think they brought in
Definitely.
really, really good players. But, you know, it's just we often find ourselves in these conversations where there's a lot new and you're counting on things to hit. And I just if we use the offense as an example, I don't know that we can just assume that, Kyle Flood will coach these guys up on the offensive line, and they're going to be better on the ground because they have better running backs, and it's, a new mentality or whatever. I don't know if I'm willing to jump to that conclusion at this point. Not now.
Okay. Fair enough. They're going to be really good. They're going to be excellent. It's a tough schedule. Can't wait to see who emerges. They got, a Rutgers? They've turned to the great state of New Jersey for corner help.
Yep.
I mean, they look loaded.
The schedule's a joke.
Yeah.
You said it's hard. It is hard. It's also a joke. Because to my eye, the two worst teams on here are Texas State, which has a veteran quarterback, and Brad Jackson. I'm not expecting them to win, but he's at least serviceable. And UTSA, who could potentially be a playoff team out of the G6.
In a bit of a sandwich spot between Ohio State and Tennessee on the road. Yeah.
They open up with 3 straight home games. One of them is Ohio State. The bye comes before Oklahoma, which of course is the neutral site game, but then they play 8 straight SEC games. Their final month, they're at Mizzou, at LSU, home against Arkansas, at Texas A&M. Their win total is 9.5. And I think that's a function of the schedule. If they had Georgia's schedule, it would probably be 10.5 as well. But I've got them 10-2. I have them losing to Ohio State and LSU.
I have 10-2. I don't know where the losses are coming from. Ohio State's probably the likeliest, but that's actually a pretty good time to get Ohio State working in a bunch of new full-time guys on that defense on the road at DKR. Not the most difficult place to play in the world, but that's a near impossible ask. But Ohio State wins games as well. So yeah, I have them at 10-2. I have them as a playoff team. I think a 9-3 year is kind of a failure considering what they've put into this team, and I don't expect them to go 9-3. So
yeah,
I'm in on 10-2. They appear to be much more dangerous than basically everybody they'll play.
Yeah, and the final disclaimer here, and then we'll move on.
Yeah.
I don't mean to be negative about Texas, but I think these are very real questions that we need to ask about this team at this point because the expectations are there. As I said, my expectations were sky high coming into preview season here, and I was fully prepared to vote him number 1. I didn't. I voted, we vote him 6. It's not that big of a difference, especially in the preseason. But I don't know. These are very real concerns that I've been jotting down, and I'm hopeful that they can solve some of these and live up to the hype.
Agree.